Well, hello and welcome back. I am your astrology coach, and today we are talking about the asteroid Parthenope. And you may see Parthenope in your natal chart, and she has many different meanings, significations based on where she falls within your chart, what house she's in, what sign she's in, and most importantly, if she is conjunct any of your natal planets. So I've shown other videos previously showing you how you can find asteroids in your own chart. And you can kind of see where she lands in your natal chart and come back, watch this video, and see if there is any meaning for Parthenope in your chart and whether or not you see these significations. So I am your astrology coach. I love to use astrology to coach people through situations. So different things like when is a good time to get into a relationship? When is a good time to end a relationship? When should I be looking at having children? Should I be switching jobs right now? So all of these things we can be coached through our natal chart and looking at the transits. Sometimes we even find ourselves in bad situations. Things are just going wrong, they're going awry. And sometimes it is good to look at your astrology chart and you can see, like, wow, this is a transit that's happening right now. It's only going to last 2 weeks, or maybe it's going to last a couple months. So that is something that I can help you with. Um, if you're just coming through tough times, or even when is a good time to play the lottery. I always use astrology to help me when I play the lottery as well. And I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to win big. So if you feel like you just want a little extra help, a little bit of knowledge looking at your chart, I can be your astrology coach. All right, but for now, I've showed you videos on how you can bring up your natal chart and find what asteroids are in your chart, and come back to this video and see if any of this rings true for you. So, all right, we are talking about this asteroid named after a Greek siren. Yes, we know all those sirens, beautiful. They waited by the shore. They lured sailors either to their doom or to safety. So let's see what Parthenope means in your chart for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the astrological meaning. So right there you see her glyph. That is how Parthenope would show up in your natal chart, and it looks a little bit like a harp. So people with Parthenope, particularly on your sun sign, can be magnetic yet elusive personalities. Very beautiful, very charming, but like I said, elusive. So not someone that tends to get close to other people. People with Parthenope on their sun sign may also often seek harmony, sometimes good at persuading other people, but they also can be persuade as well. You also have to pay attention to their nonverbal communication. So they may say little, but their actions speak very loud. And they tend to have a detachment, more like a loner, don't seem to really fit in with particular groups. They're just, like I said, that elusive personality. Okay. So if you have Parthenope around your sun, and again, we're looking at 3 degrees or less for an actual conjunction of Parthenope on your planet. Okay, so take a look and see if Parthenope falls within any of these signs. So I've listed here all of the signs. And if you have Parthenope in your Aries, you might see independence through action. If Parthenope is in your Taurus, Taurus has a lot to do with financial situations. So these people are not prone to financial entrapment or emotional entrapment, very independent. Gemini, they seek authenticity through intellectual detachment, means they might have their own beliefs and thoughts. Cancer, emotional boundaries and loyalty. All right. Sometimes this type of person may get sucked in, be kind of more empathetic, but they often seek loyalty. And if you have Parthenope in your sign of Leo, you are aloof from criticism, which means you don't care what people think about you. You don't care what people say about you. You just do your own thing. Unfortunately, if you have Parthenope in Virgo, you tend to be very self-critiquing of yourself. You're going to critique yourself more than anyone else will and hold yourself to those high standards. If you have Parthenope in the sign of Libra, sorry, I just had to adjust my screen here. Okay, independence is sought through detached fairness, striving for idealized, aesthetically pleasing relationships where emotional needs do not disrupt perfect balance. So when you think of Libra, Libra is ruled by Venus. These people just love beautiful things. So Parthenope in the sign of Libra probably is a beautiful person, likes beautiful things, looking for that kind of relationship almost where you are idealized, where your partner puts you on a pedestal and you just love being that way. All right, how about Parthenope in the sign of Scorpio? So these people tend to be intensely private, have very strong self-control. They like to keep their own things, not great at sharing unless they absolutely have to. So this person, as a married partner, probably would not combine resources, would want to keep their own independence. All right, I'm going to skip over to Pisces. I'm a little out of order here. So if Parthenope is in your sign of Pisces, Pisces is known as being very spiritual, the imaginative realm. So these people require strong psychic boundaries to prevent the merging of identity with what's out there, if that makes sense. Not wanting to fall into like society, what other people are doing, so these people might be someone that would start their own religion, create their own cult, kind of go off the mainstream of things. If you have Parthenope in your Sagittarius, this is maintained through philosophical distance, seeking truth, resisting limitations imposed by tradition or localized thinking. Again, I think of this as, almost that Uranian quality where, and similar to Pisces, you don't fall into those regular beliefs. You have your own way of thinking, your own philosophy, and you don't really fall into the mainstream. Okay, if you have Parthenope in your Capricorn sign, this is tied to your professional reputation, having some emotional restraint, and these people really have an idealized status and authority. So you might see more of your independence, your strong qualities in your work ethic. Again, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So just that wisdom, people might look to you for learning new things. And last but not least, I've got Aquarius here, where their independence is rooted in intellectual freedom. They have that detached perspective within groups. Again, very similar to Sagittarius and Pisces. You just don't go with the flow. And typically, Aquarius is definitely known for that. You're not a go with the flow. You're independent, rebellious, and you don't change your beliefs. You just stick with what you believe in. All right, now I'm going to break down where you might see Parthenope in your house. So again, looking at the first house, you're going to want to associate that with the signs I just covered and then merge that with the house that it falls in. So the first house is all about the self. Okay, so if you have Parthenope in your first house, you are going to be requiring your own personal space. You want your own image of self-sufficiency, right? If you are a woman, you want to be an independent woman, kind of a loner. So that's where you would see that influence in your first house. The second house has to do with finances, material wealth. So your financial independence and your resources are crucial, with a strong boundary around what is earned and what is shared. In the third house, it's all about communication. So you're thinking how this person would be communicating, that clear communication. You have like very grounded thoughts. So you're not going to fall into nostalgia. And third house also has to do with local dealings, your neighborhood, and short journeys. All right, fourth house is all about the home. So if you have Parthenope in your fourth house, you are going to want an emotional sanctuary within the home where you can just retreat and be yourself. You don't have to put on that facade to go out into the outside world. Fifth house has to do with creative expression, romance. All right, you don't need any external validation. But again, if you have Parthenope in your fifth house, you may be very creative and magnetic. You might have some really good charisma bringing lovers in, so to speak. Sixth house has to do with the work environment. Work environment, health routines, and pets. Okay, so here we're really looking at defining those boundaries. But again, thinking of that magnetism in the workplace. Okay, so you might be really good at sales, right? If you have Parthenope in your sixth house, because you're going to bring that magnetism. Think of how I said Parthenope was a siren. She called sailors into the shore. So if you have Parthenope in your sixth house, you're going to be able to call people into your work. So either pretty strong leader or salesman. Seventh house has to do with your partnerships, relationships. So it's a respect for personal autonomy and being able to keep your individual goals, okay? So you're not going to really want to mesh with the other person, so to speak, when we're talking about those material possessions. So you may want your own separate account, right? What you bring in is yours, what your partner brings in is your partner's, yet you're still married and you have a great life. Number 8, if Parthenope is in your 8th house, emotional boundaries strictly enforced. Okay, so these people may have some strong walls up. It might be difficult to break down and be intimate with others and really break that wall down, because there is a strong independence here and some deep transformation. Parthenope in the 9th house means your independence is sought through higher learning, foreign travel, not wavering in your philosophical or spiritual beliefs, okay? But the 9th house is all about that higher education and travel. So maybe a tour guide. All right, but again, this depends on so many other factors. There's so many other factors, where all of your planets lie, what house is anything conjoining Parthenope. So all of that really goes into play. The 10th house is all about career and work. So your professional standing is built upon authentic, uncompromised independence. Okay, starting your own company, being an entrepreneur, that leads to a very strong public reputation defined by your own self-reliance and achievement. The 11th house has to do with friendships and groups. So again, your friendships and groups are going to be based on your shared ideals. And the 12th house, last but not least, 12th house is all about isolation, meditation. So again, and this was kind of what we saw in the 4th house, where isolation is necessary for your own restoration. Okay, you have to protect your subconscious from external contamination and emotional burden. So if you have Parthenope in the 12th house, you could be someone that needs retreats. You need solace, or you need to just check yourself away for a while. Might even be rehab, depending on what you need. But you really need to be thinking about what are those things that are making you feel bad, those toxic external factors, and being able to know that you need to stop and you need to work on that. All right, so Parthenope influences any conjoined planet. So I have an example here. So Parthenope, you see that little harp there by the sun. Parthenope here is in the house of Libra and it is conjoined the sun. So for example, Parthenope is in the 4th house and also conjoined the sun and in Libra. So you think of 4th house, that's the home. You think of Libra, ruled by Venus. The home is going to be a beautiful solace retreat. And this person with Parthenope being on the sun needs to be able to retreat to the home, to regenerate, right? You might go out and you might work all week, but those weekends, you like to stay in your beautiful home, and that is your retreat, that is your escape. Now, another piece with Parthenope being on the sun, think about the sun being that's your facade, that's your person. So what we know about Parthenope being a siren, this person also would be alluring and captivating, yet almost like a unicorn, like a beautiful unicorn that people can see, but you can't touch, right? So that's kind of the personality that this person would take on. So find out where Parthenope is in your chart. Again, go back. I have other videos showing you how to bring up your natal chart for free, how to find Parthenope, or hey, leave me a message if you would just love to have an astrology coaching session. I love working with people, exploring your chart, and really teaching you. I don't just I like to show you what pieces mean, and that's why I call myself the astrology coach. So thank you for watching. If you like this, be sure to watch more, share, bookmark, and I can teach you about other asteroids if you would like to learn about more asteroids. Okay, so thank you for watching.